Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're doing something a bit different, a really specialized exploration based on a custom request. This comes from the Religious Studies arm of the Energy and Personal Excellence LLC program. And yeah, we're focusing on material that's pretty foundational to their perspective. Before we really dive in, we want to acknowledge Sachin J, the founder and CEO of Energy and Personal Excellence LLC, who actually commissioned this deep dive. We're also told that Sachin Karnik conducts daily satsang online, and importantly, that all are welcome to join. So just wanted to share that.
hmm And today, our mission, if you will, is quite ambitious. We're tackling a really significant 16th century text, the Bhakti Rasamanta Sindhu. But we're not just looking at it in isolation. We're layering it onto its metaphysical bedrock, which is Gachi Vedanta's theory of divine energy, or Sakti Tattva. It's a fascinating synthesis.
Okay, so we're bringing together the practice and the deep philosophy behind it.
Exactly. And our goal isn't just to, give a summary. We want to distill the precise canonical definition of the very highest form of devotion, Uttama Bhakti. And crucially, understand the nature of the reality it's aimed at. So we'll be unpacking key Sanskrit terms, making sure we grasp their full weight.
Got it. Let's start with that title, because it's quite something. Bhakti Rasamanta Sindhu, BRS maybe for short.
BRS works, yeah.
It translates roughly as the ocean Sindhu of the nectar, the ecstatic experience rasa of bhakti, or devotion.
Wow. It really sets a high bar, doesn't it?
Ah.
An ocean of nectar juice. It promises transformation, not just dry theory.
Definitely not. And the author Rupa Goswami is key here, right? He wasn't just some isolated scholar.
Not at all. He was a major figure, one of the senior followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya spearheaded this huge, spiritual and cultural explosion in 16th century India, a massive renaissance focused on Krishna Bhakti.
So a movement driven by intense feeling, by experience.
Tremendous feeling, yeah. But Rupa Goswami's contribution was crucial. He provided the structure, the system. His Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu isn't just beautiful poetry, it's a detailed theological and, interestingly, aesthetic treatise. He codified the practices, the philosophy.
Giving it an intellectual backbone.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Which is why people compare him to figures like Augustine or Aquinas in the West. He took this powerful emotional current and gave it a rigorous, systematic framework. He basically defined the gold standard for what pure devotion means in this tradition.
Okay, so to really get what Rupa Goswami achieved, it helps to see how his definition of bhakti stands out. Let's compare it to ideas and texts maybe more familiar to some listeners, like the Yoga Sutras and the Bhagavad Gita.
Good starting point. Let's take Patanjali's Yoga Sutras first. Here, the role of devotion or bhakti is, it's incredibly minimal.
Right. The famous goal is Chittavritiniro.
Stopping the mind's fluctuations, yeah. The whole system is geared towards self-absorption, realizing the nature of the self. Atatman. It's not about building a relationship with God.
That difference is huge right off the bat. Relationship needs too, right? Patanjali seems focused entirely on the individual's inner state.
Exactly. Patanjali mentions Ajrata Pranchina, surrender to Ishvara, but look at its role. It's listed as vikalpa.
An alternative.
An alternative, yeah. Or maybe an auxiliary path to get to samadhi, that state of absorption. The commentator Vyasa calls it a bhakti vishya, a special kind of devotion, but it's a tool, not the goal itself.
And how is Ishvara defined there? That's also telling.
Very telling. Ishvara is a visho purua, a special soul. Special because this being was never affected by the kleshas, the usual human afflictions, ignorance, ego, attachment, and so on, or by karma.
So never caught in the cycle of birth and death, Cesara. Perfectly transcendent.
Untouched. But the relationship is purely functional. You focus on Ishvara, maybe using the sound O but Y, to quiet your mind. So you can realize your own nature, Svarupa. Once you hit samadhi, Ishvara's job is done. The focus shifts entirely to self-absorption.
The tool is put away once the task is complete. No ongoing relationship needed or even discussed.
Right. There's no talk about God's personality, qualities, divine activities, the aliyahs. It's devotion, but in service of achieving a state of self-realization. A state devoid of relationship.
It's fascinatingly minimalist on the bhakti front, almost utilitarian.
You could say that. Now, contrast that with the Bhagavad Gita. Here, bhakti gets a major promotion.
Yeah, the Gita definitely puts bhakti center stage. Krishna explicitly says it's the highest yoga.
Absolutely. He declares, I am the supreme Aishvara, surrender everything to me.
Yeah.
So the primacy of bhakti is firmly established in the Gita, no question about that.
There's still a gap, isn't there? Which is presumably where the BRS comes in.
Exactly. The Gita establishes the what and the why surrendered to Krishna because he is supreme, but it remains quite abstract on the how.
Krishna keeps telling Arjuna, fix your mind on me. Okay, but how?
Right. You get general instructions like, offer me the results of your actions, or offer me a leaf, a flower, fruit, water. Which is beautiful, but it doesn't give you a detailed psychological roadmap.
And there's a deeper philosophical challenge, too, isn't there? How does the ordinary mind, which, operates based on sensory inputs and past impressions, the saskaras, how does that mind grasp the Paratman, the supreme soul, which is beyond all material qualities and senses?
That's the crux. The mind deals with imprints of the material world. The supreme is subtle, transcendent. Even the path of knowledge, jhana, might give you a theoretical understanding of the Atman, or oneness with Brahman.
Like an intellectual concept.
But the mind struggles to relate to it, to fix on it in a meaningful, experiential way. It's too abstract, it leaves no direct sensory trace for the mind to hold on to.
So the Gita gives the command, but not the detailed training manual for the mind and heart.
You can put it that way. And that's the vacuum the 16th century Gachiya movement, and specifically Rupa Goswami's BRS, aimed to fill. They weren't satisfied with abstraction. They wanted vivid, intense, practical engagement.
So the BRS becomes the detailed how-to guide for that intense devotional life the Gita points towards. It moves from philosophy to lived, felt experience, the rasa.
Precisely. It provides the psychology, the aesthetics, the systematic steps for cultivating that deep reciprocal love.
Okay, let's get to the heart of the BRS then. Rupa Goswami's formal definition of the ultimate goal. Uttama Bhakti, highest devotion. This is the anchor, you said.
It really is. This definition, found early in the BRS, sets the standard for everything that follows.
So let's break it down. You gave the translation. Highest devotion is dedicated service, seva tukena, rendered pleasantly and lovingly. Okay, that sounds good. But then the qualifiers kick in. That is devoid of desire for anything else, the no gimme part, and unobstructed by intellectual knowledge, jhana, or purposeful action, karma. That sounds restrictive.
It's highly specific, yes. Let's unpack it piece by piece. Start with seva. You mentioned the English word service can sometimes have baggage, maybe suggesting forced work, like the Sanskrit dasa, a servant, or even slave.
Right, obligation.
But seva here implies something spontaneous, joyful. It's doing things purely to please the beloved, flowing naturally from affection.
Like if you love someone, doing things for them isn't a chore, it's just what you do. It feels good to make them happy. That's seva.
Exactly that. The motivation shifts entirely from duty or obligation, which, if you think about it, still has a bit of self-interest, like wanting to be seen as a good servant or partner, to an act where the pleasure of the other is the only reward.
Okay, that connects directly to the no gimme principle. This seems like the really crucial differentiator.
It absolutely is. Lower forms of bhakti, or mixed bhakti, are transactional. You're devotional, but you're asking for something in return. Wealth, health, protection, maybe even political power.
We see that all the time. God, please help me pass this exam or heal my relative. That's the basic level.
Right. But Rupa Goswami takes this much further. He says even asking God for moksha, liberation from the cycle of birth and death, is still a form of gimme.
Wow, okay. That's radical. Why? Isn't liberation the ultimate spiritual goal in many paths?
It is. But think about it. If you're asking for moksha, you're asking for your release, your peace, your eternal state. You're essentially asking God to grant you samadhi, that state of self-absorption we talked about with Patanjali.
So it's still centered on the self's benefit, even if it's a spiritual benefit.
Precisely. The pure bhakta, following this definition of uttama bhakti, approaches Kali as saying, I love you because you are amazing. I don't need anything from you, not even my own liberation or cessation of suffering. The focus is entirely on the beloved, not the self.
That completely flips the usual spiritual paradigm. Any goal focused on my state, my comfort, my eternity falls short of this pure, unconditional love.
And this is so central that the highest bhaktas in this tradition explicitly reject the 5 traditional forms of liberation, or moksha. This rejection is a defining characteristic.
Okay, we need to list those 5 again and understand why they're rejected, because some of them sound pretty good.
We do. Let's list them.
Living in the same divine realm as the Lord. Co-residence.
Having opulence or powers equal to the Lord.
Being in close physical proximity to the Lord eternally.
Having a spiritual form similar to the Lord's own form.
Yeah.
And 5th, sayudhya. merging completely into the divine effulgence or the impersonal Brahman.
Okay. I can see rejecting sati, equal power. That seems a bit ego-driven, maybe. But living in the same place, Salokya, or being near God, Samipya, or having a similar spiritual body, Sarupya, isn't that the dream for many devotees? Why is even that considered gimme-gimme and rejected by the Uttama Bhakta?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Those four co-residents, proximity, similar form, even equal opulence. To some extent, they guarantee your eternal bliss, your safety, your elevated status. They ensure your individual salvation in a very nice neighborhood, so to speak. But they still prioritize the benefit accruing to the self. The Uttama Bhakta isn't seeking the reward of the relationship like proximity or status. They just want the activity of the relationship, which is seva.
Ah, so the desire for proximity is still a subtle self-interest. I want to be near God for my benefit. Whereas the desire is just to serve wherever you are, whatever form you have. That's selfless.
Exactly. And that leads to the most dramatic rejection, sijya, merging. The Bhagavata Pude, a key text for this school, says merging is like hell for the pure devotee.
Like hell. Why so strong?
Because love requires difference. Relationship requires two distinct entities interacting. If the soul merges completely, like a drop of water into the ocean, that distinction vanishes.
You become one.
You become one, and the possibility of seva, of reciprocal loving exchange, of rasa, is destroyed. Merging ends the relationship.
So, Patanjali seeks merging for peace. The BRS rejects merging to preserve love. A fundamental difference.
Absolutely fundamental. Now, the other part of the definition. This devotion must be unobstructed. First, unobstructed by jhana. Intellectual knowledge, philosophy.
Right. The potential problem here is pride. The buddhiyakakara, the ego that says, I am the great scholar. I have figured it all out.
Uh-huh. Knowledge puffs up, as they say?
It can. If jhana is pursued for its own sake, it can feed the ego and become a barrier to the humility and surrender required for pure bhakti. The path becomes about intellectual mastery, not heartfelt connection.
And the BRS contrasts this with these simple, uneducated gopis, the cowherd women of Vrindavana.
Yes, they're held up as the ideal, precisely because their love for Krishna was spontaneous, intense, and completely untainted by intellectual pride or philosophical calculation. It flowed straight from the heart.
Makes sense. The second obstruction is karma. Not karma as destiny, but
Purposeful action. Action performed specifically to get a result, to earn merit, to achieve some future reward, even a spiritual one.
so if I perform austerities or give charity thinking, okay, God will see this and give me a better birth or spiritual powers, that's obstructed. According to this definition, yes, that action is conditional. It's not pure seva. The action in Uttama Bhakti must be done simply as an offering of love, with zero attachment to the outcome for oneself. The act itself is the expression.
Okay. And finally, unlike paths like yoga that emphasize sense withdrawal, pratihara,
Right, or nirodha, cessation.
Bhakti seems to embrace the senses.
Fully. The senses aren't seen as enemies to be shut down. They're tools for relationship. The tongue chants Konya's names, Gitana. The ears hear his stories and glories, Katan. The mind remembers him, Smaran. The hands serve him.
So the idea is engage the senses but redirect them.
Exactly. The logic is beautiful.
Yeah.
The Lord himself is called Hokesha, the master of the senses. So why withdraw the senses from their rightful owner? Just turn them towards him. Engage them fully in acts of love and service. Every sight, sound, taste becomes an offering.
All right, so if someone manages to attain this incredibly high standard of Uttama Bhakti, pure, selfless, unobstructed, using all the senses, what happens? The BRS says it brings about 6 specific, powerful results or qualities.
Yes, these aren't things you strive for separately. They are said to manifest automatically as byproducts of pure devotion. The first one is very practical. Agapteti destroys difficulties. Kleshas.
Okay, difficulties meaning suffering, obstacles.
More specifically, it means the complete eradication of papa sin, or negative karmic reactions, and the underlying kleshas or afflictions like ignorance, avya, egoism, attachments, aversions, fear of death, the whole package.
Now, the sources get really specific about how this destruction works with different kinds of karma, right? This seems important for understanding its power.
Extremely important. We need to differentiate between, first, aprarabdha karma. These are the seeds of past actions, the latent karmic potential stored up, which hasn't yet started to bear fruit. It's destined to shape future lives, future bodies, future circumstances. Second, prarabdha karma. This is the karma that has started to bear fruit. It's actively manifesting as your current life situation, your body, health, family, the joys and sorrows you're experiencing right now.
Okay, so unripened karma and ripened karma. How does bhakti deal with these? Usually, pravda is considered pretty much unavoidable until it plays out.
Well, according to the BRS and related texts, non-bhakti practices like austerity or charity might burn away some of the fruits of sin, but they don't necessarily destroy the seeds, aprabdha. But pure bhakti, focused solely on kakya, is said to be like a raging fire. The Bhagavata uses that analogy. As a blazing fire turns all fuel to ashes, bhakti consumes all sins.
All sins, including the pravda that's already manifesting.
It consumes the aprabdha, completely burns the seeds so they never sprout. And while it might not always stop the external manifestation of prabdha, you might still have the physical condition determined by past karma. It utterly destroys its binding power, its psychological and spiritual impact on the devotee. The suffering loses its sting because the devotee's consciousness is fixed elsewhere.
So the external situation might remain, but the internal experience is transformed. The karma is neutralized spiritually.
Exactly. And the key distinction made is about the root tendency, the vasana. Non-bhakti practices might clean up the results of past actions, but they don't destroy the inclination to act that way again, which brings us to that famous elephant analogy.
Ah, yes, the elephant taking a bath. Let's hear that one.
Okay, so imagine someone performs intense austerities or rituals. They might feel purified for a while, washed clean of sinful reactions. But it's like an elephant that goes into the river and gets perfectly clean, and then immediately walks onto the bank and throws dust and sand all over itself again. Why? Because the desire, the ingrained habit, the vasana, to roll in the dirt is still there. The external dirt was washed off, but the internal tendency remained.
Right, the habit pattern wasn't changed.
But bhakti, because it involves this fundamental shift in desire and focus towards kya, is said to destroy the root vasana itself. The soul simply loses its taste for the dirt of material entanglement. The inclination itself is purified.
That's a much deeper level of transformation.
It is. And importantly, this power isn't restricted by social status or birth. The BRS stresses bhakti's universal accessibility. A quote often cited says, even someone considered a lowly dog-eater, which implies a birth resulting from very bad prarabdha karma in that social context.
Okay.
Even such a person is made instantly fit for the highest Vedic rituals just by sincerely chanting, hearing, or remembering God's name. Devotion bypasses all those external qualifications.
That's a powerful statement on spiritual democracy. Okay, the second quality. Be bhakti bestows auspiciousness. Sure is. This sounds like all-around goodness.
It is. It means the pure devotee naturally develops all good qualities. Things like the yamas and niyamas from yoga, nonviolence, truthfulness, cleanliness, contentment. They don't have to cultivate these virtues painstakingly one by one.
They just arise.
They arise spontaneously as a byproduct of the pure love developing in the heart. If the love is pure, the ethics naturally follow. It's quite a claim.
It really is. It flips the usual model of be good first, then find God. Here it's love God purely, and goodness will follow.
And this inner auspiciousness radiates outwards. The texts say that all beings, even animals and plants, are naturally attracted to and feel happy around a pure devotee.
Why is that?
Because the devotee has genuinely given up selfishness, ego, and pretense. They radiate a kind of pure, loving energy that resonates with everyone. And crucially, this state encompasses all forms of happiness. Ordinary material joys, which are enjoyed without attachment, the profound peace of impersonal liberation, moksha, and the supreme dynamic bliss of relationship with God, bhakti rasa. They get the whole spectrum.
Which leads perfectly into the third and maybe most startling quality. See Bhakti trivializes moksha.
This is where the BRS really throws down the gauntlet. It states that when even a tiny bit, lava matra, of this pure love for kanya enters the heart, the four traditional aims of human life.
Dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Righteousness, wealth, pleasure, liberation.
All four of them instantly become insignificant. They appear like straw to Tevid.
Straw. Not just less valuable, but basically worthless trash in comparison.
That's the standard metaphor used to Janamane. It highlights the sheer scale difference. Compared to the ocean of bhakti rasa, even the bliss of liberation feels trivial.
And it's said that liberation and even supernatural powers, the siddhis, they just follow the devotee around anyway.
Like her servants, is the phrase used. They become incidental side benefits, completely unsought. The devotee isn't pursuing mokam because, as we discussed, seeking liberation is still fundamentally self-interested. I want to be free from suffering.
Whereas pure love is focused entirely outwards on the beloved.
Exactly. If I'm asking for liberation, the focus is me. If I'm just offering seva, the focus is you. That shift in focus makes mukha irrelevant as a goal. It might happen, it might not. The devotee doesn't care.
That really clarifies why rejecting those 5 forms of mukha is so central to Uttama Bhakti. If liberation itself is just straw, why would you aim for its specific varieties?
You wouldn't. If you did, your bhakti wouldn't be uttama, it would be mixed with desire.
Okay, quality number 4. D-Bhakti is very difficult to attain. Now, this seems a bit paradoxical. You said the practices themselves, chanting, hearing, are relatively easy compared to, say, hardcore meditation or austerity.
The difficulty isn't in the external actions. Singing a name or hearing a story isn't physically arduous. The extreme difficulty lies in achieving the required internal purity.
The no gimme gimme part again.
That's it. The absolute, unmotivated, unconditional devotion, approaching the divine with zero expectation of any return, not even liberation, not even reciprocation sometimes. That level of selflessness and humility is exceedingly rare. That's the challenge.
It's an internal state, not an external practice that's hard.
Precisely. Which leads to the very essence, the payoff, if you will. E-Bhakti consists of a special concentrated joy. This is the core experience the BRS is named after.
The nectar juice of ecstatic experience.
Exactly. And this rasa, this transcendental flavor or taste, is described as a unique, concentrated form of bliss that completely overshadows the ananda, the bliss, that comes from realizing the individual self, the Atman, which is the goal of many jnanis and yogis.
Overshadows how? Is it just more intense?
Infinitely more intense. The scale difference is astronomical. This is where that powerful analogy from the Bhagavatam comes in.
The hoof print.
Yes. The bliss of realizing the Atman, the yogi's goal, is compared to the amount of water that can fit in the tiny hoof print left by a calf.
Okay, a tiny puddle.
Compared to the vast, immeasurable ocean of bhakti rasa, the bliss derived from relationship with the Supreme Source.
Wow, just a puddle versus the entire ocean. Why such a massive difference?
It goes back to ontology, the nature of being. In this system, the individual soul, the Atman or Jiva, is considered a ceton, an atomic particle, an infinitesimal spark of the divine consciousness.
A tiny spark of God.
Right. So the bliss inherent within that tiny spark, while pure and real, must logically be infinitesimal compared to the infinite ocean of bliss that is God, Bhagavan himself. The yogi tastes the bliss of the spark. The bhakta, through loving relationship, tastes the bliss of the infinite ocean.
One is contained, the other is boundless and relational.
Exactly. And this brings us to the final quality, the ultimate consequence. F-bhakti attracts shirkita.
The devotion itself pulls the divine.
Yes. This pure, unconditional, selfless love, because it asks for nothing and expects nothing, is said to be the only thing that truly captures and, in a sense, obligates the infinite heart of God. It creates an irresistible magnetic pull. Kicha is conquered only by the love of his devotees.
Okay, we've defined this incredibly high form of devotion and its effects. But to really grasp why it's considered so powerful, why Khanna is the focus, why the bliss is oceanic, we need to shift gears, right? We need the underlying metaphysics.
Exactly. We need to move from the experience, the rasa, to the structure of reality that makes that experience possible. This means diving into the Gaccha Vedanta cosmology, the divine energy theory of reality, Shakti Tattva.
Shakti Tattva, divine energy theory.
Yeah. And this isn't just abstract philosophy. It changes everything. It reframes theology as what the source material calls energetic ontology.
Energetic ontology, meaning the study of being, but understood in terms of energy.
Precisely. The fundamental question becomes, how is reality constituted energetically? What is the relationship between the source of energy and its manifestations? And where do we fit into that energetic picture?
Okay, so what's the core principle of Shakti Tattva?
The core principles is absolutely everything that exists from the highest spiritual dimensions down to the physical atoms. Everything is constituted, sustained, and differentiated by the Shakti, the divine power of the Supreme Lord Shaktiman, who is identified as Sukhitant in this tradition.
So the universe isn't something created separately from God?
No. It is God's energy manifesting in countless ways. It's an expression, not an external creation.
That immediately brings up the foundational concept, Sikti Shaktiman Abheda, non-difference between the energy and the energy source.
This is the anchor. Abheda means non-difference. It states that Ken, Shaktiman, the possessor of energy, and his energies, Skepti, are eternally distinct in their function. They do different things, clearly, but they are utterly inseparable in their essential substance.
Like the classic example, fire and its heat.
perfect example. Fire and heat are functionally distinct. One is the source, the other is the radiation, but you can't have one without the other. You can't isolate heat as a substance separate from fire, or, another common one, the sun and its rays.
Distinct, you can block a ray, but the ray is sunlight. Same substance.
Exactly. So this principle means that everything, all phenomena, are fundamentally divine in substance because they are all expressions of Kunst's energy.
Okay, but if everything is divine energy, how does the system explain the imperfections, the suffering, the apparent non-divine aspects of the material world? How does God remain unaffected, pure?
That's where another crucial concept comes in, Sukti Pariyamavada, the theory of the transformation of energy. This is a key differentiator for Gacchya Vedanta.
Transformation of energy, okay. How does that work?
It posits that the cosmos, with all its variety and change, is a transformation, Parima, of God's Shakti, his energy. But, and this is critical, not a transformation of the Sikdaman, the divine person himself.
So the energy changes, but the source of the energy doesn't. That sounds subtle.
It's subtle but philosophically massive. If Cathin himself transformed into the universe, which is the idea of Brahma Paramavada in some other schools, then he would become mutable, limited, affected by the changes in the world. He wouldn't be the absolute unchanging reality.
He'd be diminished or divided by creation.
Exactly. But by saying only the energy transforms, the theory preserves the absolute immutability and completeness of Kata. He remains entirely whole and unaffected, even while his energy manifests as the entire dynamic cosmos.
So the world isn't an illusion, as in Advaita Vedanta?
Correct. It's real because it's a real transformation of God's real energy.
But it's also not God himself becoming the world. It's his energy expressing itself.
Precisely. The world is a real but dependent divine self-expression. It's the radiance transforming, not the radiator itself.
Okay, so we have non-difference in substance, Shakti Shakti Manapeda, and transformation only of the energy, Shakti Paramavada. How do you hold these together? They seem paradoxical. One and yet different, changing and yet unchanging.
And the system acknowledges that paradox. That's the role of the epistemological framework.
Asintya. Inconceivable.
Inconceivable, yeah. The theory of inconceivable simultaneous oneness and difference. It states that the relationship between God and his energies and between the energies themselves is one of simultaneous oneness, abheda, because it's all one divine substance, and difference, peda, because the functions and manifestations are genuinely varied and distinct.
And it's inconceivable because our finite human logic struggles to grasp how something can be truly one and truly different at the exact same time.
Correct. It transcends rational categorization. It allows the philosophy to affirm both God's absolute unity and transcendence and the reality and significance of the diverse creation and the individual souls within it. Difference is real, but underlying it is fundamental oneness.
All right, so we have this overarching principle. Reality is divine energy, Sukta Tattva, characterized by inconceivable oneness and difference. Now, how does this energy actually manifest? The model describes a threefold structure, right?
Yes, this single divine energy isn't monolithic. It functions in three primary modes or strata, which together constitute the entire architecture of reality, from the purely spiritual to the material. And remember the core idea. They all share the same fundamental substance, Dravya Bheda, but differ in their function or mode of operation, Vyupara Bheda.
Okay, and we're using the ocean of consciousness analogy to help visualize this.
Exactly. Let's start at the very core, the absolute foundation. One, Svarupa Shakti, the internal energy. This corresponds to the depths of the ocean.
Sarupa, one's own form, essential nature, so God's own essential energy.
Precisely. This is Kinta's innermost intrinsic eternal potency. It's the energy that constitutes the purely spiritual realm, the transcendent domain known as Goloka Vandavana, or Vaikuta, completely beyond time and material influence.
And the nature of these depths?
Pure Satchitananda, eternal being sat, pure consciousness, seat, and limitless bliss, Ananda. It's self-luminous, eternally pure, and functionally non-different from Kyun himself in that realm. Think of the ocean depths, utterly calm, radiant, clear, unaffected by surface storms, the stable, blissful substratum.
And its function. What does this internal energy do?
Primarily, it facilitates Kinta's own eternal existence and experiences, his divine leelas, his pastimes and play. It allows him to experience his own fullness, his purita. It's the source of that Ananda Sinmaya rasa, the ecstatic taste of conscious joy we talked about, the medium for the highest forms of divine relationship.
Okay, from the decks, let's go to the complete opposite. 2, Maya Shakti, the external energy. This is the surface of the ocean in the analogy.
Right. Maya often gets translated as illusion, but here it's more accurately external or extrinsic or even concealing potency. This energy governs the entire empirical phenomenal world, the realm of material manifestation.
The world we perceive with our senses.
Yes. And like the ocean surface, it's characterized by restlessness, turbulence, constant change. It's full of waves, foam, maybe even pollution things that obscure the clarity of the depth.
Its nature seems almost like an inversion of the Svarupa Shakti.
In a way, yes. It's where consciousness appears veiled, manifesting as seemingly unconscious matter. It's characterized by limitation, temporality, and avidya ignorance, the forgetting of our true nature and relationship with the source.
But crucially, in this system, Maya isn't unreal or non-existent, is it?
No, that's a key point, distinguishing it from strict Advaita. Mayashti is a real energy of Kun. It's not an illusion imposed from nowhere. It's real, but its function is to conceal and distort the underlying spiritual reality. It serves a purpose.
A purpose, like what?
A kind of didactic or experiential purpose. It provides the stage for the individual soul, jiva, to experience limitation, individuality, forgetfulness, and ultimately to exercise its choice to turn back towards the source. It allows for the drama of spiritual evolution.
Okay, so we have the pure depth, Svarupa, and the turbulent concealing surface, Mayo. Where do we fit in? The individual souls, the jivas.
We are the third category. 3. Taita Sakti, the marginal energy. Taya means shore or bank, so situated on the borderline. In the analogy, these are the droplets of water.
Droplets, so individual units.
Yes, the Testa Shakti manifests as the countless individual conscious units, the jivas. Each jiva is described as a sitam, an atomic particle of consciousness, a tiny spark of the divine fire, a tiny droplet of the divine ocean. Same substance, but infinitesimally small and individual.
And this marginal position on the shore between the depths and the surface, what does that signify?
It signifies the unique potential and predicament of the soul. Being marginal means the jiva is inherently connected to both the spiritual, svarupa, and material maya energies, but not irrevocably bound to either. It occupies this liminal metaphysical space.
The interface zone.
Exactly. And it's this marginal position that grants the jiva its most crucial characteristic: infinitesimal freedom, the seat of independence, svatantrata bhuja.
Even though it's tiny, it has choice.
Yes, a minute degree of free will. The droplet, situated at the interface, can choose its orientation. It can turn inward, towards the depths, towards Svarupa Shakti, aligning itself with its divine nature through practices like Bhakti.
Yeah.
Or it can turn outward, towards the surface, towards Maya Shakti, getting caught up in the ways of material desire, seeking temporary pleasure and results, forgetting its connection to the depths.
So this marginal energy is the zone of potential, the zone of choice, transformation, and relationship.
Absolutely, it's the locus of bhakti. Because the jiva has this freedom, its turning towards kyan is a genuine act of love, not a predetermined mechanism. This marginal nature makes meaningful reciprocal relationship possible between the infinite Lord and the finite soul. It bridges the gap.
Okay, this model of the three energies, depths, surface, droplets, is incredibly insightful. But it all hangs together because of that principle we mentioned earlier, the underlying unity. Let's just solidify our understanding of that. The unity of substance, dravya abheda.
Right. Dravya means substance, abheda means non-difference. So dravya abheda asserts that despite the functional differences between Svarupa Shakti, Maya Shakti, and Tasta Shakti, they all share one single, continuous, undivided divine substance.
And that substance is?
Living consciousness. It's all consciousness, just operating in different modes or states of purity and expression. Think of AGO again. Ice, liquid water, steam.
Functionally very different. You can skate on ice, drink water, get burned by steam.
Exactly. Huge functional differences via parahita. But are they different substances? No. They are all fundamentally HO Dravyapeda.
So the difference between the spiritual world, Svarupa Shakti, and material world, Maya Shakti, or between a liberated soul and a conditioned soul, Tasta Shakti, is not a difference in their fundamental stuff.
Correct. It's not a substantial difference, Dravyapeda.
It's a difference in their mode of operation, their state, maybe their vibrational density or level of awareness.
That's a good way to put it. Viharabheda functional difference. The spiritual world is the pure, luminous state of that conscious substance. The material world is the same substance, but operating in an obscured, seemingly inert, forgetful state. The soul, jiva, is an individual spark of that same substance, currently choosing which functional mode to align with.
This really reinforces the Asintya Bhadeba idea, inconceivable oneness and difference. The oneness is substantial. The difference is functional.
Perfectly put. It allows the system to maintain both unity and real diversity simultaneously.
And how does this specific formulation, substantial unity, functional difference position Gacha Vedanta relative to other major schools like Sakara Advaita or Madhvadvaita?
It carves out a distinct middle ground. Unlike Advaita Vedanta, which emphasizes absolute oneness of Veda to the point of declaring functional difference, Veda, ultimately illusory Maya, Gachi Vedanta insists that the functional differences, like the reality of individual souls and their relationship with God, are real and eternally meaningful as part of the divine lila.
So difference isn't just an illusion to be overcome.
No, but unlike Dvaita Vedanta, which emphasizes eternal substantial difference, Dravya Veda, between God, souls, and matter, Gachi Vedanta insists on the underlying substantial unity, Dravya Veda. It's all ultimately Kaya's energy, one conscious substance.
It's a non-dualism that embraces difference, rather than negating it.
A qualified non-dualism, or perhaps better, a non-dualism that finds its ultimate expression through differentiation and relationship.
What's the implication of this Dravya Veda for us, living in the world, for the spiritual seeker?
The implication is profound. It means the universe isn't alien or separate from the divine. It's not other. It is, in essence, God in expansion Shakti Vikasa. The cosmos becomes a living revelation, an organic whole.
Everything is interconnected because it shares the same essential nature.
Yes, every atom, every being, participates in the underlying reality of Satchinanda, even if it's currently obscured. So when the soul, Jiva the droplet, practices Uttama Bhakti, it's not trying to reach something entirely foreign or separate.
It's trying to realign.
Exactly. It's using its marginal freedom to consciously shift its functional mode, Vipara, away from the turbulent surface and towards the blissful depths, Sarupa, thereby aligning its function with its inherent substance, Dravya. It's choosing to resonate at the frequency of pure conscious love.
So let me try to synthesize this. The ultimate reality, Kilas, is the Shaktiman, the possessor of energy, the ocean. All of existence is his Shakti, his energy, the water, manifesting in different modes. We, the individual souls or jivas, are the Tasta Shakti, the marginal energy, the droplets. We are made of the same substance as the ocean.
Correct.
And the highest purpose of life, Uttama Bhakti, is for the droplet to use its tiny freedom to consciously turn away from the confusing surface distractions and orient itself wholly towards the loving, blissful depths, Varupa, engaging in selfless service.
You've nailed it. That provides the ultimate metaphysical rationale for why Uttama Bhakti's selfless love that desires nothing, not even liberation, is considered the supreme path. It's the only path that perfectly harmonizes the soul's functional reality with the ultimate substantial reality of the entire cosmos. Hashtag outro.
Wow. We started this deep dive looking for a definition of the highest devotion, Uttama Bhakti, and we've journeyed through its qualities right into this comprehensive, energetic map of reality, Sakti Tattva. The central thread seems to be this connection. The purity required by Uttama Bhakti makes sense because of the ontological truth revealed by Sakti Tattva. The devotee, the droplet, is distinct enough to love, but fundamentally one in substance with the divine ocean.
That's the beautiful synthesis. And that marginal position, that Tayasta nature, which grants the infinitesimal freedom, it's not a flaw or a mistake. It's the very feature that makes genuine chosen love possible. Without that freedom, it would just be automatic, wouldn't it?
Right, no real relationship. Which brings us to our final thought for you, the listener, something to really chew on based on everything we've unpacked today. If it's true, as the system proposes, that all existence is fundamentally one divine substance, one living consciousness, differing only in its functional mode, how realized or concealed that divinity is, then the critical factor is the orientation of your own marginal energy, your Pasta Shakti. So the question is, what immediate practical step, however small, can you take right now, today, to consciously exercise that tiny seed of freedom, Svatam Tartagja, you possess?
How can you begin to shift your orientation, even slightly, away from the distracting turbulence of the surface Maya and turn towards the inherent bliss of the depths, Sarupa Shakti?
The choice, it seems, rests entirely within that marginal freedom.
Determining whether you experience the ocean primarily as storm or as serenity.
A powerful place to pause. Thank you for joining us on this very specific, very deep dive into Bhakti and Sakti Tattva. And just a reminder, for more information related to the context of this request, you can contact Sachin J. Karnik at the email address provided in the description box. Thanks for listening.